Alright, so recently I've been on my LeetCode grind. As a senior computer science student, I know I need to lock in, okay? I need to lock in. I think I have pretty good experience with projects and stuff like that, but I've really been slacking when it comes to data structures and algorithms. So I've been on my LeetCode grind. I'm using LeetCode's roadmap here. I've done all of these questions. The last one that remains, at least in this portion of the roadmap, is longest consecutive sequence. So I'm going to be doing that today. Lord help me, because these have been really humbling. I develop the solutions to try to understand as best that I can, and then I look at the videos that LeetCode offers and the optimal solutions, and I'm like, these guys are geniuses. How are these guys coming up with this? But at least I'm understanding the process. But let's get right into it. So let me read the question first and foremost. So given an unsorted array of integers, nums, return the length of the longest consecutive element sequence. You must write an algorithm that runs in big O of n time. So for example, if the input is 104, 200, 132, the output should be 4, because we return the length of the longest consecutive element sequence, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right. Example number 2, 037258461, so that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, okay. So that's 9 elements, correct. So I always like to take a look at the constraints. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it really isn't. In this case, it's rather unhelpful, but you know what? It's good to read it. Okay. What I like to do before I solve questions is to gather as much information as possible. So I'm going to use my iPad to write the information that I know and maybe some questions that I want to ask. Alright, so first of all, I like to write the question itself just so that I could look at it visually. We know that we're given an input that is an unsorted array of integers. Okay, that's fine. I can admit that I'm a bit stumped here. What I can do is look at the solution with you guys. So let's go ahead and do that. So I say we get into it and start learning, you know.
$2,000 later.
Alright, so what I like to do next, after looking at the explanation of the solution, before I actually look at the code, I like to try to do it on my own, because I like to test my understanding of the explanation that I just saw. So first and foremost, the solution had me ask a question: what makes a sequence? For example, over here, if we iterate through every element of the array, say 100, is this the start of a sequence? Because we know that every sequence has a start value. Is this the start of a sequence, 100? Well, we can know that if it has no left neighbors, because the start of a sequence has no left neighbors. And because 99 doesn't exist, this is the start of a sequence. But we also need to check how long is the sequence. Well, does 101 exist here? No. Which means the length of this sequence is 1. We can do that for every single element here in the array, and at the end of it we should have the number of sequences and their lengths, and from that we can derive what is the longest consecutive element sequence. We could return the value. So alright, so I had to go to the video for a bit more guidance, but I understand now. It was actually a lot easier than I had initially thought, and that's also another problem that I realized that I have is oftentimes, and I think it happens to a lot of comp-sci majors, software developers, whatever you want to call yourself, is that we overcomplicate solutions. We think it has to be complicated based on the difficulty of the problem, for example, but it doesn't have to be. And so the solution is pretty straightforward, if I'm being honest. So first, we need the num set. We could just feed that into the constructor. And then we kind of need to keep track of the longest consecutive element sequence. Just initialize to 0. We could also initialize the length, because we need to know the length. We could initialize that. Then we need to iterate for n in nums, and that's just every element in the array, so it would start with 100, not using indexes here. Then we need to check if the element is the start of a sequence. You can do that by saying if n minus 1 in numset no, that would be not in numset, right, because then that means it has no left neighbor, correct. Then we could say that while, because now we need to check its consecutive values, because now we have the start of a sequence and we need to check the consecutive values. So we could do that by saying while n plus the length is in numset, and that works because, for example, to give an example, length is initially 0 and the first number is 100. 100 plus 0 is 100. Is 100 in numset? Yes. So we actually want to increment length. Yes, we want to increment length. And then we move on, right? Length is now 1. Now is 100 plus 1 in numset? No. So we exit the while loop, and then we could actually just check if we compare between the length and the longest, and we could say we might have already found the longest consecutive element sequence. And so I believe this is all that you would need to do, and then you would return the longest. We could run this to see if it works. Okay, we have an error here. Numset is not defined. Yes. Naming error right there. There we go. Missed an S. Happens all the time. Okay. Length. Oh my gosh, the typing is amazing. So TH. There we go. These are all typing errors. There we go. So our solution passes all the cases. And I'm gonna go ahead and submit here to see what happens. Oh wow, so we fail for one. Okay, let's see. Okay, I seem to have found the problem. Is that we're iterating through nums instead of numset, and that's an error right there. This should work now. There we go. There we go. So evidently, these LeetCode problems can be extremely time consuming and difficult, but at the same time, there's a lot to learn here. There's a lot of wisdom to be drawn from this experience. One is, you can learn new concepts, absolutely. But two is, you can learn how to use the knowledge that you already have and apply them to the problems that need them, right? You need to know how to differentiate between problems that use hash sets, problems that use arrays, problems that use stacks, linked lists, etc. You need to know, and that's called wisdom. That's very difficult to attain. I know I'm struggling to attain that, but we're on the grind, man. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you drew some sort of inspiration from this. Get on your grind. Get on it, bro. Get on it. You're gonna get that $150K, $1,000 a year job. Just get on it. Grind as much as you can. You got it. God bless. Love y'all, man. See you.